Hello, everyone. Nightmare here, and this is Whale FM Makerspace edition. In this show, we talk about everything and anything art and crypto in the NFT scene with designers and creators alike, otherwise known as non-fungible tokens. My guest today is Deborah Azzopardi, the UK pop art sensation that has long commanded eyes with her bold lines and vivid colors. Now she brings her revered, flirty style to the blockchain to enrapture the metaverse. Deborah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, hi, you're welcome. Nice to be here.
And likewise, we're here with CryptoPop, who has aided you in bringing your art to the metaverse, to the blockchain. CryptoPop, thanks for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Lovely to chat.
Really excited to talk with you today. When we made the announcement, in fact, a lot of people within our Discord community were excited and were familiar with your work. So I'm sure we'll have lots of questions for you as well.
Great.
Before we get going, can you, for anyone that may not be familiar with your iconic work that's seen around the world, and we're looking at probably one of the most iconic pieces right here on the screen now, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and walk us through your background and journey in art?
Oh, well, it's 36 years now. I'm an artist that paints original paintings, but they're published and sold globally. And there's original paintings, limited editions, and now hopefully NFTs. So the background has purely been just original paintings.
That's quite a long track record of success, and a
long time painting, but it's great fun.
Right. So 30-something years. Did you get a formal education in art? Did you just find it as an interest and picked it up? Talk to me a little bit about how you came.
No, I'm completely untrained. I'm self-taught, but it was something that I always wanted to do. So it just starts out from having fun, and this is nice. Doing things that make you smile, make you laugh, make you happy. And unbelievably, a lot of people felt that too. So it became recognized, amazingly to me, but just for the pure fun of it.
Now, did you have art around you, when you were growing up, or was it just something you decided to explore at some point?
Well, I've always enjoyed art. I mean, there's art in everything: gardens, architecture, design, clothes, in everything. I had family influences of art, but not in this style. It was something else. My mother was a fashion designer, my grandfather a jeweler. So I've always understood design, but this was something different, because in all artists you always have to develop your own style, your own way, and this was just something I liked. It just made me tick. And also you learn so much as you grow: humor, other people, friends, laughter particularly. It's a lot of fun. And then as my children grew, they became my muses.
Very interesting to have that diversity as far as, seeing the different art influences around you and how you kind of amalgamate that subconsciously, and then, your own style evolves, obviously. At what point did you decide, hey, this is something that I think it's something I want to do and focus on for a career?
I don't actually think it was as conscious as that. I think I do believe, if you're doing something that makes you happy, and if you're doing something that you like, it could work. But I didn't know that at the time. I was young, and I was just painting, creating, and that's it. So these are all moments in time, things that I see, bright colors. They weren't always bright colors. I went through a very sinister phase, but they were all things that were thought-provoking, that made you tick, made you think, or they were flippant, or fanciful, or flashy, or giggly, or flirtatious, or seductive, or risque but not full on. So it was all of those things, and I know I'm just shooting off words, but it was all of those things, but it happens over a long period of time, and it's about being true to yourself. I mean, I guess there's a part in every single artist that the images are them. So if this is me, I'm having a ball. I'm having a great time in life. I'd love to be all of these people.
Right. And did you have some commercial work that you were doing as well? I think I read somewhere that you were doing some work with Disney.
So when I started, I had a licensing agreement with Disney, and it was great fun. You never really quite know where you're going when you're young, but it was good experience. And you have to, they're tough cookies. You have to meet their standards. I enjoyed that very much, and then after a while, I thought, right, okay, I can do this. You have your own ideas that you want to develop, and again, it's about being true to yourself and doing something. It's not 9 to 5. It's long hours. You work harder than anything else, but it's a joy. Has to fit in around your life, around family life, around everything. So I think Disney was a great start.
Yeah, we hear that from a lot of artists that it was, as far as the regiment and, the standards, like you said, it really helped them kind of hone their craft and then see other people and how they applied it as well. So you can pull some practices and understand some different nuance. What would you say were some of your major influences as you were honing in and developing your style and aesthetic?
Um, I've always loved art. I love looking at things. I love the work of René Grau, Toulouse-Lautrec, the Moulin Rouge. There's a lot of art that I like, and there's a lot of art that I don't like. But principally, it's just art that makes me smile. It's something that makes you tick. So the influences of other artists, yes, but there's influences in fashion, in design, ornaments, and everything. Just things that are happy. We only want happy things, fun things.
Right. And you talked about the experimentation where you were kind of in a different lane. What made you say,
yes.
hey, this is where I really want to focus my efforts. This is where I enjoy myself and want to, continue to hone in?
There was nothing in particular. It was just, you have an idea and you have to see the idea through. So you can have a vision in your mind and you want to see it complete. So it was just, okay, I'll do that. And then I do that. And then I'll do that. And you literally can go from one to the other, living your life in between. But, all the time while you're living your life, you're thinking, oh, yes, I could paint that, or a funny conversation or a joke or a time that you're having. Really, laughter inspires you. So it's those things that can encourage you. So that can also put you in a different mood to whatever you're painting.
Right. And you characterize beautifully, your art and your style and some of the influences as well. I found it interesting when some of the discussion that was happening within the community earlier. One of the things that someone brought up was Batman, right? The original series, and how that had that particular timestamp within our pop culture.
Yeah, I love Batman. I'm a real Batman fan. But again, that's a little sinister, and I don't mind sinister. What can I say? It's great fun. It's really great fun, but I really like images that move. And how do you get an image to move when you're painting it and it's flat? Well, this is where NFTs come in.
Yeah, definitely. Before we get to the NFTs, I just like to understand your creative process a little bit. So you talked about, finding joy in things that you'd like to depict in everyday life, and things that inspire you, and you probably carry that with you, and things that you'd like to work on. When you sit down to do this from a technical perspective, talk to me a little bit about what that entails and your process.
So first of all, it's an idea. I might find a muse, a model, somebody that can pose for me. Photographs. I have quite a good memory. Elaborate on that. Sketch, draw, paint. Think about it. A lot of thinking, and how to develop it. And maybe you can be thinking of colors, everything. You're thinking of the whole thing the whole way through. So the process is that, not many people draw these days with a pencil and paper, but I'm afraid I still do. So it can be from a very simple sketch and idea, and then immediately to something large. I really like painting on a large scale. Painting things that are very small is very difficult for me.
And do you ever delve in strictly digital, or are you always painting tactically with, tangible paint?
Paintbrush.
Okay. No,
Paintbrush and paint.
Right. Certainly with the NFT space, we found that some traditional artists that just had painted had experimented a little bit, right? And now we're delving into the world of Procreate and whatnot. And sometimes we actually find the inverse. I think that it's wonderful how it's inspired creatives to go outside of their box a little bit. So I'll be interested to see, now that you're in the space, how it evolves and continues to develop. Do you create in any other mediums besides paint? Because I see a question here relative to sculpting and some other processes, and
Well,
people were wondering if you experiment a bit.
the answer is no, not really, but I do sculpting, but just for myself for fun. But I don't really have time. So
Right.
my time is spent purely just painting. I mean, I would love to learn all the other skills that are needed, but I just don't have the time. So here we are, 36 years on, and I still don't have the time. It's a big job looking after yourself and your family and your cooking and children and running around. There's no time to do anything else. And now I'm older, and this is what I do.
Right. I can definitely relate to that statement for sure.
Yeah.
And so, COVID has obviously had a big impact on the world, and it continues to do so. But with that time spent in quarantine and with some of that restriction, I think a lot of people have taken introspectively to really explore their creative process. Has COVID impacted you at all, and done anything with your creativity?
No, not really, not at all. COVID kept me incredibly busy. I had more Zoom calls and messages and meetings than ever before because everything was done from my studio. But I am always alone painting, so I just carried on. But there was a lot of interruptions. There were a lot of calls. It was really busy, but I just carried on through it. I mean, for me, it was marvelous. But I just,
Right. Right.
but I just carried on doing exactly the same. I'm used to being alone. I always work alone. I'm on my own. So for me, it wasn't different. It's very sad what's happening in the world outside, but I'm in my happy place.
I joke with people that a byproduct of it is now I have to be more kempt, right? Before I could take a lot of conference calls via phone, and now I
Yes,
have to be live on camera for the most part.
yes,
So,
that's
so
exactly it.
that's why
Yeah,
I resort to just using a icon here instead of actually being on screen, because then I'd have to comb my hair or get out of this sweatsuit.
totally.
So, you guys talk to me a little bit about, obviously you have tremendous success in traditional fine art. How did you find your way into crypto and the NFT art space?
So, Crypto Pop and I have been friends for about 20 years, and it was just his idea, really, and a very natural development,
Yeah.
and
So, and
seemed like
sorry.
something that was a natural evolution and something I was very keen on doing.
Well, yeah, and there was a bit of arm twisting because that's the kind of juxtaposition, isn't it? Because Deborah's work is, I mean, in person is sublime, and it really is, and it's always impressed me. Sorry, I've been keeping quiet in the background because obviously it's not about me, it's about Deborah. But for me, I just thought it was an absolutely incredible opportunity to explore Deborah's artwork because I know her sentiments about movement, and it's not a painting of something. It's actually she creates a scene that just implies there's stuff going on. You've caught the scene in the middle of it, and I thought seeing the evolution of NFTs in just a short space of time, I just thought it was absolutely perfect. And if we could work together where we could develop her images and she could kind of revisit those stories or scenes that she felt when she was painting, then that could be pretty magical. And so, I think it took probably 5 or 6 minutes to persuade Deborah that NFTs are here to stay, and this could be something really exciting. And then and we embarked on that journey. And actually, lockdown and COVID, I kind of gone way down the rabbit hole into VR and NFTs and this called Clubhouse, and was just kind of trying to get as much info as possible and just being completely wowed by not just the art in the community, but the attitude of the community. And, I'm someone that's dealt with artists all my life, and it was completely refreshing. And I just said, Deborah, I think I wasn't even talking about the artwork. I just said, Deborah, you've got to be involved in this movement because it's phenomenal. And I think this is the beginning of something quite incredible. And that was really the beginning of the journey. So it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for that context. And I think you're right. A lot of people found themselves in that position where all of a sudden they were exploring because they had to take a pause from some of the runaround of their everyday life, and in doing so
Yeah.
found this creative movement that, I don't want to say it's altruistic, but certainly put more of the emphasis on the art, on the artists themselves, and the value of it relative to being a creative outlet and what it can do for creatives and things of that nature. So Deborah, I see that on your Twitter. I see some of the back and forth you're having with some of the OG artists from the space, some of the
Yeah.
the different things happening. So obviously you're embedding, like many of us that are listening and watching right now. How would you characterize NFTs as a cultural movement coming from where you are?
Oh, have we lost it?
We may have lost her for a moment.
Oh, how crazy.
While she's working on her mic, CryptoPop,
Yes.
how would you
Yes.
characterize NFTs as a cultural movement?
I think the interesting part is that NFTs have allowed artists to be in control of their future. Well, I mean, it's a creative future as well. And it's that whole kind of shift in focus of various gatekeepers that have provided platforms for artists in the past, and that's definitely changed. So I think, and I've come from a background where, I saw the internet happen. We were telling people how to turn on their computers
Yeah.
way back. And we had a website. I've had a gallery in central London. I had that for 16, 17 years. So I've come from the other side where, my gallery was slightly different, but you have artists that want to get their work represented and shown, and the various barriers to entry to the marketplace. And it's very much down to individuals to decide the fate of certain artists and the opportunities that they have. And so once the internet came about, social media came about, you've got that direct access for admirer slash collector slash customer for the artist, and the artist can have that direct relationship. And I think NFTs are, at a very simple level, are a direct connect between the collector and the artist, and the artist and the collector, and the interesting relationship that is. But obviously, at a deeper level, when you look at the technology, it provides some really exciting progressions that artists were not able to even consider a few years back. And all the plugins and gamification and tokenification and all those kind of elements, and creating and developing inclusive audiences that have a sense of loyalty. They can grow a sense of loyalty to the artist, and vice versa. So I think culturally, we all know in this space we're at the very beginning, and it's exciting. Like they say, a week in politics is a long time. I think a week in NFTs is a lifetime.
Absolutely.
So
Right, a
moving
roller
so
coaster
quickly.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, completely, completely.
Last week included.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. So, but what the interesting thing is, I remember seeing Deborah's artwork. I was walking along a high street in Islington in North London, like 25 years ago or something, maybe even longer. And it was all closed up and locked up, and there was like grills on the front window because it was closed. And something caught my eye. It was at night time, and I had to peek in, and I just could not believe her artwork. It's got that classic accessibility. I've always loved pop art. I love the whole kind of just the bold nature of it that slaps you around the face, and you just get swept up into all the emotions of whatever the piece is. And that's really what I felt about her artwork. And I've always loved it, but there was no name. I didn't know who it was, and it just stuck with me for years. And then I can't remember how we met actually, but I think it may have been at the gallery, or just found out about her artwork, and I realised that I was meeting you, and it was pretty special, and we've both been about delivering an experience for the collector or the person, the admirer, whether that's someone that's bought a print in a huge department store where Deborah's art is sold around the world, or someone that has bought a huge original painting, at an exhibition in London. It's always been, for me, it's always been about the experience of owning something, enjoying it, buying it, the personal connection. It's hanging in your living space and you can remember how, why, where you bought it, who created it. So I've always been focused on those elements, and so has Deborah in her painting and her creations, and who's represented and shown her work over the years. So there's always been this kind of alignment of, the end user experience, and I've always done that in my career with things that I've done. And this NFTs represent that. It's, for me, it was always longer term, not just about, oh, it's another image to collect and have on your computer. It's something to enjoy in your living space, whether it's in, virtual in the metaverse, or it's something that, physically is on a screen in a living space or something like that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about the democratization of art. And I think that gets thrown around often. But, for example, here, people have an opportunity to, take part and own a piece of Deborah's work, regardless of their financial status or whether they have an invitation or opportunity to go to a high-end gallery show. But likewise, the playing field is leveled for artists as well. So someone that isn't, doesn't have patrons and people supporting them and really building their career is on the same footing. I'll never forget, I was on a clubhouse room early in the spring, and I think, I don't remember the exact panel, but there was some people from the traditional art world, some museum curators, and likewise a lot of people from the NFT space and social tokens that were emerging. I think Trevor from FWB was there as well. And I remember the question, became, hey, why are these NFTs popular? What gives them this value? And someone from the traditional fine art world said something to the effect of, the problem with the NFT movement is there's no one telling people what's good. And the entire room's reaction was, that's the beauty of it, right? It's the people being able to say, we appreciate this and this is what should move forward. So all great points, but I especially love that you guys entered into it because you saw the opportunity from the end user experience, because experientially, that's really what is valuable to be able to take part in and to be able to have that unique experience of, two-way owner. It's a two-way conversation, right? When someone purchases an NFT, they're making a statement on the value proposition and their feeling about the artwork and the artist. They want to be part of it.
Well, look, in the early days, we would, in the gallery that I had, people would buy something. We would let people pay over time, because it wasn't about the value of it. Well, it's the value to them, but things have a value, things have a price. And we used to let people pay over time, layaway, I think that's what we call it. And so that way you ensure that people get things for the right reason, which is that they love it, because the values are the values, because it could be trading history, it could be arena, it could be different relevances, whatever. So, I've always had that focus that people should buy what they like, and then once someone gets something, they want to, I was always encouraged information that they know about the artist, they know about the piece, they know about all those elements that I said before about the why and the where and all that kind of stuff, because they go on a journey with the artist. Your job, in a way, as a when I was a gallerist, if you like, is that's kind of done because they've got the artwork. But it's like, what is the customer's journey? What is the collector's journey with that artist? Well, it's about the journey that the artist goes on, where they're going to be showing next, what they've done, and in NFTs, it's the same thing. We call it a roadmap of what the intention is. And so, the fun thing about all of this is that once you've got a body of work like Deborah's, which is phenomenal, but it has a very different vibe. A lot of them, they have similar feel, look, etc., with the colors and the line art, which are specific, but there's actually quite a lot of different subject matters, and we can really have fun with that and explore it and make it as experiential as possible, so people feel like they're part of Deborah's journey within the NFT space. And like you say, at one point would be kind of inaccessible, but actually it's extremely accessible now. And I think that's the exciting thing, that it communicates to a different audience, as well as expanding the existing audience. And when I looked at NFT legends that they've become now, like Sabet, for example, I mean, his stuff is amazing. And in the early days, you know, everyone's talking about these different strategies where he's really employed lots of different things because he wants to be accessible to a lot of people. And people have got his stuff and think, oh my God, I love it. What's he going to do next? And they go on the journey with them. And that's exactly what we're embarking on now, which is really exciting.
Definitely. And full disclosure, I did have a Sabet Ugly Kitty at one point as well myself.
Hey.
So
Yeah, I got a couple of pieces.
So tell me about the drop on Makerspace today. Is this the Genesis drop, the first NFTs that you guys have put out into the wild?
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. You know, I think the temptation, and we haven't done this, by the way, but the temptation is, you know, what's commercial? What do you think is going to go? What's going to sell? That kind of stuff. But you know, that's kind of an older mentality. The discussions that we had and we started, you know, Deborah and I sat down and I was trying to find, you know, what the motivation. What's your favorite piece, or you know, tell me some stories about the artwork, and you know, and so we kind of went along that journey, and I think, you know, you talk about Deborah's work being flirty and playful, and that's exactly the sentiment. And Deborah's work is loved by, you know, all genders, and like everyone can relate. And it's the fun, it's the teasing, it's the naughtiness in a very playful, human way. And so those are the ones that we wanted to start with, but also Deborah has got various kind of iconic pieces that have been published. And you know, the interesting thing about Deborah, and I have, you know, I can say this because I've said it to her, you know, into her face, is that when people say her name, it's kind of okay, Deborah Azzopardi, but then when people see the images, they're like, oh my God, I love that piece, because they've seen it over the years.
Right.
And to me, I have seen that for over 2 decades, and I love it. So it's never been about me, ego, you know, artist profile, this, that, and the other. It's always been about let the art speak for itself. And so we wanted to choose things that were some of Deborah's most kind of iconic and, you know, loved pieces. But you know, we've got some really interesting things lined up. But we wanted to start somewhere, and this is what we've done.
Well, thank you for that. I see that there are 4 pieces that are part of this collection, right? So there's Pure, which is I think I believe this is the premier piece, the one of one, along with Physical Attraction. So these will be on auction. And then likewise, you have Sunday Morning and Bing Bong, both in editions of 5 and 3 variants, right? So color variants here of Bing Bong, and then variants of, I don't know how to describe this, where the tickle angle comes from, right?
Well, you know, do you not think they have like a different feel to them? I when we were looking at it, because it's the result of much discussion, and there are kind of various nuances along the way. I mean, the Bing Bong, for example, was painted and released as a yellow edition, but because of Deborah's kind of color ways and color palettes, it was really giving a very different feeling to the moment. And you know, includes the classic doorbell sound, but it's the kind of retro energy that those kind of doorbells had, and that was taken from a doorbell that you know, Deborah kind of experienced when she went somewhere and ended up painting it, and the painting is very successful, and the piece is very successful.
Yeah, no, I feel like it definitely does, and certainly with these pieces, you know, you know, it changes the narrative totally, right? Like this is someone asking to be tickled and willing, where another one is kind of a you know, more of a mutual thing, and this may be, you know, a sneaky tickle that someone wasn't expecting or something, right?
Exactly. The more we
You're
looked at
in
it,
my
the more we
world.
felt. Yeah, my toes were like wincing over, and it's like I was like, oh my god, I can't really look at that one that for that much longer. But you're right, it's kind of like the same but different. And so we had to do it as very different pieces, and we also wanted that accessibility. So that's why there are editions of 5. We kept it small. We're not looking at 10,000 item drops and things like that because
Right.
they've all got a history to them, and I think that's the key. It's kind of the painting is a wonderful piece when you see the painting. It's a static image, and you've got that anticipation, but actually, the fact that they don't even touch, it's like, oh, you can just feel it. And we talked about that looks great on the screen and on your phone and all that stuff, but actually we've always spoken longer term of it, and you have that on a wall, and it's a massive conversation piece, isn't it? I mean, it's a real focal point, and it's fun and exciting, exactly the way we feel about the artwork.
Right. I just had to turn and look and, imagine this on a mural on my wall in
Exactly.
motion with that vibrant
Yeah.
color and that backlighting. I mean, that would really be something to see if
Yeah.
people came into my home.
Well, that's why we built the gallery in Altspace, and it's a brilliant virtual gallery. We've got an event there tonight, and the pieces are huge on the wall. And if you've got a VR headset, you'll be in the gallery, immersive, and it will be huge in front of you, and it's a fantastic experience. It really is. And we've been hanging out in people's kitchens, virtual kitchens, and virtual dining rooms with avatars and people on the platform, and that's the future. And as things accelerate and different ecosystems come into play, it's going to be a place of choice that people will go to, people's hangout spot where they can have friends all over the world and no one's tied by geographical boundaries, and enjoy their NFTs on the wall. I mean, look, we're getting NFT clothing soon, so that's the exciting thing. And I think when you look at a body of work like Deborah's that reflect all these different moments in life, love, laughter, I'll say tragedy. I'm not going to say tragedy, but challenges. That's the word I was looking for. When you look at all of those moments, that's why we enjoy artwork, because we've got an affinity to that, or 5 people will have a different feeling when they look at one piece of artwork, and that's the lovely thing about it. And I think when you've got that movement, it's really exciting. So this is kind of our kind of tease to say, hey, this is the way to enjoy NFTs. That we, one way. Of course, there's a functional NFTs, and we're looking at that next year. We've got some cool plans in place for that. But this is something that, it adds a very different dimension to art.
Yeah, definitely. I just recently picked up my first pieces of real estate in the metaverse not long ago. So it's interesting.
Wow.
It's interesting the
Fantastic.
dynamic and psychologically how things have shifted. Whereas, in the past, if you would ask me, I would say the value proposition didn't make sense for me, and now I almost had anxiety that I didn't have a piece as things were
Well, I got to
happening.
tell
Right.
you, FOMO
Mm.
plays a massive part in all of this stuff, doesn't it? Where did you buy, if I can ask you that?
I actually got a couple of parcels in a emerging one, still substrata that's still being built, but nonetheless,
Fantastic.
a lot of tools there available to build,
Yeah.
and it's still on
Yeah.
Dutch auction, whereas Sandbox and
Oh, yeah.
CV, although I do still have my eyes on a couple of CV parcels, but I'm going to keep that
Right.
low key so they don't price out of my range here.
Yeah, exactly.
But once you get in there and start building, I think one thing I heard someone say once that really resonated with me was, when it comes to virtual goods and why this has value to people versus physical, they talked about, I think the analogy they used was going back to school after summer vacation and summer break, and how they wanted to ensure that they went out and bought new clothes because they were, going to be amongst their peers, and they had took pride in representing certain things that they liked, whether that was sports teams or brands or certain stylistic stuff. And they would spend whatever, $500 or whatever for, shoes and clothing to impress and just kind of signal and share with their community of whatever 300 children that they were in class with, or 1,000 people on their campus or whatever it is. And now we're in a realm where you're doing that with virtual goods to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, right? So it even has more reach and more resonance, and how that's utilized, let alone the different utilities and things of that nature. So I think we're in a place where it makes sense, and it's beautiful that we'll be able to have Deborah's works as part of that, hanging in our galleries and on our
Exactly.
walls and building out.
For sure. Exactly. Yeah, and we've got some, as I said, we've got some kind of exclusive stuff planned next year, which will be a bit more along the functional lines of stuff. So that's very exciting. But look, the whole psychology. I mean, there's different ways. There's the whole FOMO. There's the kind of look what I've got aspect. So people that have got in and got themselves a Bored Ape, for example, are very happy to kind of tell everybody about it. And there is that kind of speculative nature of things, but that's not something that I know Deborah wanted to entertain. It was really about making sure, because she's got a very big following, there's a lot of people that have bought original artwork, there's people that have bought published limited editions, and it's very important that Deborah treads very carefully, and I tread very carefully to ensure that there is respect for that, because there's people that have wonderful assets in their collections, and this is just another asset class, but it explores it in a very different way, in a different dimension, which is exciting. And I think that collectors, and certainly the sentiments that I've seen on Deborah's Twitter and Insta and all the socials, is that people are really excited for her, which is fantastic. No one's really saying like, oh, what a load of rubbish, and it's hitting, it's a fad or whatever. It's just kind of, people are still hearing about it. They're talking about it in the supermarket and seeing the Facebook things pop up about NFTs. But I think once they see it part of someone like Deborah, who has got a tremendous career and following and respect, then it actually, at a micro level, adds that kind of trust. And I think that's a word that we talk about a lot, is trust, in terms of developing it in a respectful way that collectors and her fans can trust what she does. And I think we've delivered on that.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that conversation, actually, because like you said, there's different facets of the NFT ecosystem, right? And there are profile pick projects. There's things that are very utility based.
Yeah.
There's a lot of experimentation that could be done. It sounds like you guys are exploring that with the smart contract, and
Exactly.
there's even people from the traditional art world that tie in their physicals with the NFT. So, if they look at it through a camera, they can see some AR components, right?
Oh, sure.
You guys are experimenting with VR, but I don't think, there's necessarily one lane. There's lots of different segmentations. Agreed. And it should never be characterized that, hey, I'm trying to dilute what I do or my messaging. It's an augmentation for sure. But some people don't, are still trying to wrap their head around it, I think, even just from a provenance perspective and what NFTs can provide, or as a vehicle to circumvent, some of the traditional gatekeeping, things of that nature. Yeah. I think that gets overlooked a little bit with a lot of the headlines. I think in some of my exploring even of Deborah's socials, I saw, a little bit of back and forth where she had made some announcements, and someone had said something to the effect of, awesome job, get some of that NFT bubble, which mercifully, no one tried to correct, right? It's like, let people evolve and learn as this continues to permeate culture and people come to understand the value proposition of it.
No, you're absolutely right. And I as I was saying what I was saying, I was thinking of that comment. But the reality is, it's someone that is known. And he's got a wonderful nature with him, and but actually he's one of Deborah's biggest fans. So
You know, it
we
wasn't
laughed out loud. Yeah,
wasn't bad.
exactly.
I mean, a lot of my own family's in that realm, right? They're like, "What did you purchase for what?" Like, don't worry
Yeah,
about it. Let's have this conversation in about 6 months to a year, and I think it'll be a
exactly.
different conversation. But that's the proper way to go about it, right? And I love that you guys are being careful and respecting your existing collectors
Yeah,
from a scarcity perspective, from a maintaining value and maintaining those relationships. And that's the proper way to do that. I think even within the NFT space, there's a lot of discussion about that and what the right approach is. Right? Is it quantity to be accessible? Is it managing what you put out so that there's a value proposition in collecting? And the beauty of it is we are early and we are all in this experimental phase.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And earlier in the year, I did spend a lot of time in Clubhouse, and saw the kind of the growth of various people that then went off to Miami and Art Basel, and for the NFT show. And Deborah's work is shown at all of those art fairs, and she's got a different history there. So what's interesting is when you speak to various NFT artists, let's say, and you ask them, like, would they give a print with the piece? And a lot of people will be like, well, it's just kind of gravy. It's really the NFT that's the main thing. Whereas now, the NFT artists, they're now doing print artwork. Or you speak to people about merchandise, and it's like, no, we're just going to do this. And now they're like, hey, everybody, I've got caps and merchandise. So actually, in a kind of a commercial arena, and when you see different things over the years, things are cyclical. And at the end of the day, people do want that kind of breadth of exposure and relationship with the collectors, and someone that's got a Deborah Azzopardi personalized mug from her website has still got a relationship with Deborah as an artist, but they may not have bought a original for tens of thousands of dollars or whatever it is. So we're respectful of that at that level, and that's why this platform is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sorry for continuing to pick you guys' brains, but such an amazing artist on our platform. Definitely want to ask these questions and hear your perspective. So again, this drop, I believe it went live today. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. And the gallery party is this evening?
It is. Yeah, it's at 9:00 UK time in about an hour and 10 minutes. So, that's 4 to 5 Eastern and 1 to 2 Pacific.
Excellent. If anyone's interested, AltSpace, you can also access via Steam, and has full support for the Oculus and the various headsets. So you can really immerse, although there is a Windows option as well. I didn't have an opportunity to try it, but really keen to see how that turnout is for you guys. I saw a lot of people talking about it on your socials, so I think you'll have a great turnout and it'll be very successful.
Let's hope so.
Oh,
we can have a lot of fun there anyway.
Again, I don't know if there's something that I had missed that you wanted to share relative to the collection and the pieces, but if you guys have a few more moments, we did have some questions from the audience I'd love to run by you.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. One of the questions was, now that you've been in the NFT movement, what are some NFT projects or artists that you guys are fans of?
Well, I mean, I know Deborah. We talked about Sabet before, but I know Deborah loves his stuff. Sorry, I'm speaking for you, Deborah. Sorry, but I know
go
that
on. I'm happy.
We've got some mutual artist friends who've also developed in the NFT space. Des Pop Art, he's an amazing artist, and
Definitely.
he's we're good friends with him. And James Mulligan is a terrific artist and had tremendous success, certainly on Makersplace, actually, amongst other things. And they're definitely worth a follow. But they're kind of that route of artist in real life going over to the NFTs. I know, Deborah, you were looking at Warhol, with the whole Warhol kind of love for Warhol and the pop art
Yeah.
background. In our early conversations, Deborah was looking at Warhol stuff, and his rise has been meteoric, which is great. But to be honest with you, there's people that have just sold one NFT that are just really, really tremendous. And I love all sorts of stuff in pack, and I'm just always amazed at the innovation that's out there. And that's why Makerspace is so good, because the decision, rather than just putting something on something like OpenSea, is we wanted to go through some kind of curation where it's amongst like-minded people, or in similar kind of stature, which was important. Certainly for the Genesis drop, for sure. So we're hoping it's the start of a nice relationship.
Yeah, we definitely love Makerspace as well. In fact, we just started a relationship with them, helping to curate NFT photography on there. So we're excited about where
beautiful.
that will go.
Yeah.
Another interesting question I just saw, Deborah, which fashion designers inspire you when it comes to elements in your works, like the heels or the skirts and physical attraction?
I think I'm inspired by all fashion. I like girls to look as girls. On saying that, I absolutely love, and I always have loved, the Ralph Lauren fashions. I just love their style. They're beautiful. I love tailoring. I love tailoring on men's suits, on skirts, on, that very fine stitching, good quality stitching on walls and on fabrics. It's beautiful. So I'm just, I don't know, I think it's just all fashion. I look at everything. It's a whole combination of everything when you're older.
Great. They appreciated your answer there. And in somewhat a tangibly related note, someone had a question or comment/question. It seems a lot of your works touch on female empowerment and taking control of sexuality. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Maybe, maybe, but it's just having fun. It's not serious. It's just a moment. It's just a still moment in time, and it's just having fun. I mean, I guess it's me in all of them, but I'm not like that. It's how I'd like to be.
Well, it's always interesting to see, what your art evokes and how it's so subjective, right? So the fact that that's where someone came from with it is a wonderful thing, showing the breadth of effect that it can have.
If it evokes that, then I'm absolutely delighted.
Right.
Yeah.
Someone asked, given the conversation on editions, can we hear their thoughts on Damien Hirst and his Currency project?
Well, I don't know too much about it. Do you, CryptoPop?
Well, I think it was an interesting project. It's kind of burn the piece, or
correct. Yep.
Yeah. I think it's part of the whole experimentation. I mean, I say I keep talking about the early days. I mean, we've only been in this for like a year, and I was on Clubhouse, lockdown, all this kind of stuff, and just just hearing things evolve. And I think that that we all know that there was kind of an establishment wake up, and I think that's part of it, because he isn't, he's part of that kind of Britpop establishment that started up. And I think it's a very clever way of not just doing a moving Damien Hirst piece. So I think it's great, and I think it's I'm pleased that he's kind of put that decision into the collector's hands rather than an artist telling people what they have to do with their artwork, and I think that's great. And I looked and I missed out on them, and actually I thought, that's quite interesting, and I wouldn't really know what to do, and I kind of and ahed, left it too late and missed out. But it is really interesting, because you look at all of those, you can't think, well, I like that one better because it's got more red dots. I mean, you can't really get into that. But the problem is a lot of people don't have that luxury of A, choice, and B, time. But I like it, that whole mentality of that project, and how he kind of really involved the collector in the whole process of buying, owning, and enjoying it. If you got plans to burn it, you're like thinking, well, I've only got a year and a half left to enjoy it. I mean, I don't know what they're thinking, but it is interesting.
Yeah, interestingly, for our DAO, where we vote on leveraging some of our capital, that was one of the first pieces that we voted on to take part. And so we have that decision coming up. I think obviously I know where we would land with regards to that, but not dissimilar to what POC does, right? It's really about performance, and the art is in the reaction from the community base and what they actually do. So I'll be keen to see these statistics. And you're right, it's been interesting, the number of dots and how many colors or whatever are one thing, and then the generated names are what was really driving value for one point there, for the pieces as well. So interesting stuff. So thank you for sharing on that. Someone asked, would you guys consider collaborations at any point? It seems to be something that a lot of people experiment with in the NFT space, even if they don't do so much in the traditional art world.
Yeah, we talked about that. Deborah, what are your thoughts on that?
We'd certainly think. We'd have a look. We'd think.
Yeah. Look, Deborah's gone in with an open mind. I mean, it's that's part of the attraction of this space. I mean, it's that kind of opening up and exploring different opportunities. There's things that will be presented that we don't even know about yet, and that's really exciting. So, I don't think you can go into this with a closed mind and a traditional, kind of blinkered view. That's the way it was done. This is how we're going to do it. It doesn't really work like that. So I know Deborah's given it far more kind of sleepless nights than I think she would have done. Not that it's been stressful, but it's like, when you have a career as illustrious and important as Deborah's, they're very big decisions, how you do things, what you do, where you do it, all those kind of things. So collaborations do take a part of it. We've already had people that have approached Deborah, and we're early days. We've got some nice things to explore. We'd like to see these go to collections, and people feel really good about what they've got, because there'll be people that will know her artwork and won't know her artwork, but actually once they get something and they do the digging, they're going to be really interested and excited, I think, of what they've actually got, and the significance, rather than someone just creating something because they want to do an NFT. So it's certainly not that journey for Deborah.
Right. I love that we're here, in 2016, a lot of this started with NFTs, with people starting to experiment with putting art on the blockchain. And here we are 5 years later, still finding the fringe of what can be possibly done and how people want to experiment. So a lot of runway still on that as well. I think this is a great one to cap this wonderful interview off with. You had mentioned kind of an awakening in the traditional art space. How would you characterize how NFTs and the NFT movement is being viewed now in the traditional art space, juxtaposed to where it was in the spring when those early conversations were happening?
Deborah, you got a view?
Yeah, no, I think you can answer this a lot better than me.
No, I don't know. I mean, I think there's different steps. I think there's no doubt there's been a feeling of that FOMO, from people that think, we need to get involved in this somehow. And there are people saying, we'll speak to us artists because we'll create your artwork as an NFT. And it's like, well, for a lot of people that think, oh my goodness, NFTs, this mysterious dark art and all this kind of stuff, and that's great. Someone's going to look after it and do it. And it's like, well, what does that mean? And is that just like getting a JPEG, whacking it on OpenSea, and there's your NFT? Or is it someone that really understands the journey and the relevance and that kind of thing? So I think there are people in the art market who want to get on board. They want that stream of revenue. They want to kind of jump on the bandwagon and all that stuff and be part of the crowd. And but I think it works in very different levels, and I think the awareness and the perception of the NFT community. I mean, I know there's a lot of noise, but I think people can smell when it isn't right, or it's a cash grab, or
Yeah.
it hasn't got meaning or depth. And I think people are getting clever very quickly. You know, they're really kind of, you know, there's a lot of resources out there to really kind of know about it and feel comfortable about it. There's already a lot of people copying stuff, and you know, people getting the rug pulled and undermined and all this kind of stuff. And so, you know, it's interesting, and I think, you know, to do something too soon, too quick, too much is an error. And I think it's about starting, and it's a slow burn, not a quick success. And you know, more importantly, with both Deborah and myself having gone on, you know, similar but different. Obviously, I'm not an artist, but different journeys. And I've been a licensee, and I've published, and I've designed, and done shows, and all sorts of stuff. But you know, for Deborah, it was very much like, let's take it slow, let's do the right thing, let's feel good about it, let's have people that really kind of enjoy what they've got, and we haven't set timelines for things. You know, we want to just feel good about what we're doing every step of the way. And I think, you know, you've got to put the blinkers on really and cut out the extraneous noise in a lot of ways. And you look at, you know, everyone's going to have an opinion, and the art, you know, establishment are going to be doing different things. And like you say, everyone's trying different strategies. But, you know, if you're true to what you believe in and kind of work to that, you know, kind of group mentality or cultural mentality where, you know, you can get enjoyment out of it because, you know, the community will get enjoyment out of collecting and enjoying the artwork, then I think that's a win-win, isn't it? So that's kind of what we've been focused on, and I think everyone's got to make that discovery and journey for themselves.
Yeah, 100%. Authenticity is really the key for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know
So,
we have
you know,
we have partnerships, and you know, we have discussions with Sotheby's and Christie's, and as they've refined their strategy as well to really understand the cultural nuance here and how to approach it from that perspective, and have that respect for, you know, what's a very different audience, right, for the most part, and not just try to, you know, bang a square peg into a round hole. I think then you could find that, you know, you can resonate and have that success. But it's important to be able to approach it with the respect and reverence for, you know, the culture that it is, which has been here long before now, right? We're talking about 2016, 2017 when people started these experimentations, and that's why there's legacy artists that, you know, just in this movement have become behemoths, and you know, and now they're, you know, in an opportunistic way, you know, shoulder to shoulder with incredible artists like Deborah, and we have this vibrant art culture that all of us are kind of able to take part in and enjoy. So it's a beautiful time for artist empowerment, as well as us as people that want to experience it and take part.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
Thank you guys so much for coming on and speaking with us today.
Absolute pleasure. Loved it.
Again, on Makers, yeah, definitely. Again, on Makerspace, Deborah has her work available. There are a few pieces on auction, as well as some variants with editions of 5 that are going to be available. And your VR gallery is in about 1 hour. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that invite only, or could anybody using the code that's on the website attend?
Yeah, if everybody, you know, can just use the code, and it gives you access to the event. So,
okay, great.
You know, we have invited people, but we know more the merrier. We'd love to see anyone, and it's there's nothing like it. You know, I was I'd experienced it, this kind of thing on a Mac, and it was great. And this is in the early days for, I think, Consumer Electronics Show, and then I suddenly got a headset, and suddenly I was in it, and I just thought, oh my goodness, we've got to build a gallery, and it's fantastic. So this gallery is just it's a great experience. There's nothing like it. You know, you're speaking to the artist, and you know, you haven't got all those, you know, all the kind of issues and you know, that you normally have for an exhibition. You know, it's a wonderful experience. So if anyone wants to come along, it'd be great to see anybody. So please do.
Yeah, it's definitely a game-changing experience when people finally get to do it with an actual headset. Though you don't need it, anyone can attend, even just via the browser.
Yeah, exactly. You can still chat with Deborah, and we can stand in front of the artwork and answer questions, and and just have a laugh. And there's nothing like being in a space where everyone's there for the right reason and everyone enjoys it and it's great and you make friends and and everyone's really inclusive and it's lovely.
Excellent. Well, I know you guys will have a great show today, and I'm sure that you'll have a great drop as well. Deborah and CryptoPop, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. Thanks for the support.
Thanks.